What's up, folks? I'm your host, Konrad. Once again, you're watching my sketchy goodness with the amazing, the bearded, the talented Keith Grachow. How you doing, buddy?
How you doing, man?
Doing good. Feeling good. Work has been oddly busy, but it's good to get to wind down.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a...
Well, I was just gonna say, I don't know if you've been looking at my feed today. I've been like on a tear.
I wanted
So
to ask about a few things I have seen, and I really wanted to ask about. Okay, so hold on, let me get my feed up here. Gotta find you again.
I'll share my screen and start
perfect.
doodling. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on. Today was just one of those days where I saw a lot of things that piqued my curiosity, and so I've been having some fun conversations online with people. So,
okay, so where to start? Because you went to town. I guess let's start with the first one that I saw, which is so Bleeding Cool posted a story, and the headline for it is Mike Mayhew's Manifesto for Comic Book Artists. Stop going to Comic-Cons, with Mark Brooks, Dan Panosian, and Dennis Barger joining in. I'm not gonna lie, I read the article, but I am not super duper familiar with the work of the people. Well, Mark Brooks I'm familiar enough with, but the rest of them, the names don't spark an image in my head. When I was reading through the article, a few people commented on it, or it seemed like they had conversations on the subject, but I found that very interesting. So yeah, I guess Keith, for the folks out there, can you sort of summarize what the article is about, and then fill us in. What's your opinion?
So Mike Mayhew is a pretty well-known, pretty established comic book creator. His work is very realistic. I've known about him for decades. He's, I think, been in the industry for well over 25 years. And so he wrote, it was kind of like a mea culpa, or like some kind of like a manifesto, where he said that he didn't believe comic book creators need to be doing comic book conventions anymore. That the time of the comic book convention has had its day for comic creators, because they're really more about fans seeing celebrities and paying money towards that. As you know, there was a time when the comic book creator was the preeminent celebrity at the shows, and that's no longer the case. And so I think he was essentially saying that there are ways for you to make better money than doing a show where you're a guest. You can, like all the time you put into, let's say, doing commissions, doing signings, all of that stuff leading up to the show, and then the show, and then after the show. The cost analysis of that is that you can make a lot more money if you spent that whole like week or two doing cover work, or personal like commission, that where you can put more time and arguably be more money that you'd be getting, or whatever your project is. That the value assessment of doing a show versus what you can make is not equal to where it once was. And so that was basically his argument. And he was basically saying to his, and I'm guessing this is really people at his level, or coming up to his level, that come join me, let's not do shows anymore. Where Mark Brooks, who also is a very well-known comic creator, does lots of cover work as well, and argued that yes, if he wanted to, he could actually just do covers and sell his his brand in a way where he didn't really have to like he didn't need the money from a con. He could retire at any time. He's put kids through college, that kind of thing. So he's on the same level as Mike Mayhew, who's arguing that's where he was, right? He could retire on just doing the covers and the branding stuff without having to do shows. Mark's point of view is, but I'm honoring the fans. Like this wouldn't exist without the fans. And so going to a show, you get to, yes, you're maybe it's a bit of a diminished return, but also you're getting opportunities that you may not have gotten otherwise. You get to see people who are appreciative of what you do, because it's a very insular thing to be a comic book creator, so you don't always get those kinds of personal interactions. And so that was kind of the debate that was happening, and I think some other creators kind of chimed in with like variations on either side. So I posted, because I'm not at that caliber, I'm not at that level where I have the that brand awareness that people like either I'm getting paid so much outside of cons that I don't need a con, and or that I go to a con and I'm making so much money from the con that for me not to go to a con would be very cost prohibitive for me, right? Like I'm not at that level, but I was trying to, like, first of all figure out, like, how do other people feel in my sphere, because I I mean, I've been around it long enough that I know people that are that level of Mike Mayhew and Matt Brook, of Mark Brooks, that I'm like friends with them or friendly with them. So I was kind of curious to know what they thought. And then also just the whole debate of like, well, I mean, our cons just have they had their day for people like us? Is there a world where if we disappeared, there wouldn't be, like, nobody would really notice, right? And so I just wanted to have that kind of a debate, as much as just input from other creators to where they're coming from, as well as trying to figure out what I felt about it.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I definitely find that a fascinating idea, but I think in Mr. Mayhew's case, perhaps because of his success, because of his business where he's doing covers and having his work CGC'd and selling that, he's gotten, and I think in the article he mentions he's been doing it since he's 20 or 20 something. He's been at 33 years, so he's thinking of retiring. And given his success, given how well people know him, I'm wondering if he doesn't remember what it was like before he worked for one of the major companies, or before he had a regular book that was comfortably paying all the bills. Not to diss him, because obviously he's clearly very successful, and the art I showed previously, he's a very talented man. Like, damn. But yeah, because of that, I wonder if he's seeing, the second half of his career, the success, the establishment, and not looking back on, trying to get someone to pick up a book that he's pitching, trying to get someone to buy a book that he's made when they have no idea who he is and haven't seen his art before. Because I think what you mentioned, Keith, like, where he's at I don't want to say it this way, but he's at a certain level, he's at a certain steady salary, we'll say, from comics alone. And to me, if you're not up there, right, at that salary range, say, or that payment or whatever, that comfort, doing the shows is a way for people to see you. If you're not that level of notoriety, doing the shows, especially for you, like the way you sell yourself at shows, that is the only way people are going to get to see you and see your book and know your book. So I would definitely say there's a conflict there. I also really appreciate the other creators chiming in and saying, hey, like, it's not for me, it's for the fans. Like, it's for the people that love these books, make these books sell, and keep that or any of them or all of them working regular, because they want that book to get printed more and more, and they want more stories. But at the weird same time, because I have seen the way that the comic artists are, and you even touched on this, where Comic Cons used to be comic conventions, not film, TV, toy, this or that conventions. It was comic book conventions. Um, and I'm wondering if the element of like you said, sort of trying to remove comics from that. I think like if Fan Expo was like, nope, no more comic book stuff, I think it would survive because of the TV, but I think it would leave a very strange feeling for a lot of people,
Yeah.
especially around like, hey, that show, The Boys that you watch, hey, that show, every other one right now, based on a comic book. Where's the comics for that? Where's the story? I want to pick up the original while I'm here at the con. I want to have my favorite actor who's playing this character sign the book that's got the character on it. That would feel awkward. So like, I don't think you could remove them, but I definitely agree. Like, it'd be nice to go back to when it was just comics, like at any given show, because I find now what I'm seeing now is when I see a comics show, and what's the last one I went to? I think it's the Toronto Comics Show. I might be wrong about the title. But what they are is very specifically vendors only selling their wares, and those just happen to be comic books. There's no one there to really sign it. There's no one there pitching it. It's just, hey, I've got these back issues of this book, and we've got the newest of this book, and here's the CGC this, which there's nothing wrong with. If get your bag if you can, but like, yeah, I don't know. I think showing purely like if I were to walk into a con today and literally like it was like, there's Keith, there's Templeton, there's Jim Lee over here, we got maybe Ryan Otley, we've got Wordburglar, we've got I don't know, Fellhound, I'd be like, cool, Comic-Con, let's go. Let's go see some people, meet some people, find some cool books that I might not otherwise see. So it's interesting, and I think like half of the people I just mentioned, I don't know if their wallets would do so well without a con, or even them having to find a way to get people to know about their book would go so well without a con. Like we've talked about this a bunch, where you don't sell digital comics, you prefer selling physical in person, and you have people come back and go, oh, I remember you, I want to get your next book, is this out, is that out? And I think there's something very, very special to that, and where it is, I would call it, I guess, grassroots marketing at its finest. I think Mr. Mayhew might not remember what it was like to have to do that, or maybe, I don't know about his history, maybe he got lucky and he didn't have to, because he just sent out some really wicked art, and Marvel or whomever was like, get on in here, and he's been comfortable. I don't know.
Well, and that may be so. Yeah, I found his comments to be very privileged. So coming from the perspective of, to your point, maybe he's forgotten what it was like to struggle. Maybe he doesn't really, or he didn't explain himself in a way that made sense for why people would leave. Like the other part of it that I thought was a little bit, I don't know him. He may be a very lovely person, but to put out a mantra like that, like, or a mission statement where you're like, everybody is wrong for going to shows, this is the way to do it, which is really how it felt.
I agree.
Like there's a conceit to that, and there's a blindness to how other people can like. I would if he were going, listen, I think there's a world where comic conventions works for a lot of people. I see that there's some people that make really great money doing it, and I don't know if they were to do the same path that I would, if they would make as much money staying home. So I don't begrudge them for doing that. But I think I'm really saying to the people that are in my orbit, hey, there is a way for you to make more money if you want to. And I would, and if you were to like, he kind of did like highlight the ways you can do it. So in that case, I don't necessarily begrudge him that, but it didn't come across like that. It came across as like, everybody needs to do this, and if you don't, you're just catering to the evil comic book conventions, right?
Yeah.
And like, I think that, first of all, everybody's coming at it from a different perspective. Some people like me who so, for example, I am a there's a new term, like was it it's no longer introvert, extrovert, it's like outrovert or something. It's like some kind of like third, where you are okay around people, but you need to be by yourself to like re-energize. So there, where I am that kind of person. I'm good at shows. Like I am like, I don't get flustered or overwhelmed at shows. I'm okay around a lot of people. I'm okay like on like a high energy kind of sales, and hey, how are you doing, and all. Like, I thrive in that environment. That being said,
Yeah.
yeah, I do need downtime after that, and I can't do it so much where I start to feel the burnout from it, which that's happened to me in the past. So
Mhm.
when it comes to like those types of people like me, who feed off of the energy of people, who you get opportunities that way because of you being there in person, right?
Yeah.
Because like, to show up, like, is like the minimum thing. I was just seeing something. This is kind of somebody else talking, but people miss so many opportunities by just not showing up, right? Like, it's as simple as that sounds. So many people, oh yeah, I'll go to your thing, and they never go to it. In the meantime, there could have been people there that could have, who knows, like, could have been a great friend or an opportunity for work, or somebody you
Mhm.
can pass off to somebody else who may need some help. Like, there are, you're just missing an opportunity that way, right? And so, like, and the opportunity could be invaluable. You don't know how it could change your life, right? So I'm that kind of person that I try to and there's people that do it much better than I do out there, right? So I'm like somewhere in the middle there, and so I think that maybe he's not so much into that. Maybe he doesn't like the crowds. Maybe he doesn't like the people
Oh, yeah,
that he
okay.
interacts, and he's not really saying that so much. Maybe he one time was, and now, listen, the pandemic changed people that used to be a bit more outgoing. All of a sudden, when they found themselves indoors, and kind of afraid to go outside, like, there's a bit of a phobia that a lot of people started to get from that, and it's taken a toll on people, and that may be
Yeah.
what he's going through. I don't know, right?
Okay.
I don't know if there's something. It felt to me like there was an underlying thing going on with him, some kind of neurodivergency, PTSD type situation that we don't know about, and that's happening in his life, and maybe um, but it does pose, even regardless of who the person is talking about, or where it's coming from. It's an interesting question because,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
for example, I think it was Casey Robertson on my feed. She used to do shows all the time. She's a writer, and I think she did other things as well. But uh, she stopped going to shows after the pandemic, and her conversation with me was like, there used to be a time when you can, like, you go to a Toronto show, and there was maybe one or two shows that are happening throughout the year in Toronto,
Mhm.
right? And so people would be like, "Oh my goodness, this is such an exciting thing because it's a rare event." And then all of a sudden, you now started
Oh.
getting like a big show in Toronto every month, and now there's one every weekend, and now there's multiple shows on a weekend, and like, so there's that aspect. So there's the bright shininess of it is gone,
Mhm.
and then the direction that a lot of these shows have gone up to, which, again, I don't begrudge them doing this, but their model isn't about comic books. It's about fan, like anything that's fan related, TV, movies, anime, video games, anything like that is in that realm of fandom. It gets attention too, and it's become very expensive, right? People, before they even walked in the door, they spent like something like $400 or $500 on whatever kind of package they're getting with a celebrity or an event or whatever it is that they're doing. And so by the time they come to you, they've got pennies in their pocket, right? And so
Yeah.
that kind of thing, and that wasn't always the case. There was a time when you go to a show, and it would be somebody maybe spend like a couple $100. Maybe it's for the weekend, it's $100, and then $100 to get a couple of signatures, and they still have a decent amount of money left over for everything else, right?
Yeah.
That's not it's probably not as frequent as it used to be, is the argument. And I can see that being the case as well. My flip of that, and again, because I am not a necessarily, I don't know how many types of people there are like me, who's a business person and an artist, right?
Yeah.
You have to be both, but I don't know how many of us are there where they're actually good at sales and stuff like that. And we've had this conversation before, but I do pretty well at a lot of the smaller shows. And even if you were like a higher level, if you're good at marketing yourself and selling yourself, you can do like a store variant for a book you're coming out with, having it, and then do remarks. And so, you can do, and I know there are artists and writers that do this. They'll do a Gotham Central exclusive store signing cover and all that stuff. And so the shop does well, and the artists, hopefully the artists and writers, if they're management, or if they are good at sales themselves, go, okay, fine, I'm going to get a percentage of everything you sell, or whatever it is, whatever agreement.
Yeah, that little business acumen to make it work.
Yeah. So there, there is that world too. And since there's so many places and little shop or little like collectible shows that are also doing comics, like there's so much possibility that you really have no excuse if you can't be doing a show every weekend, and making decent money from it if you have the sales acumen, right?
Yes. Oh, I agree there for sure. And I think what you brought up too is really interesting, where it comes to like the frequency of shows, as well as like the cost of getting into them. I remember, I think my first Comic-Con I went to, oh god, a long time ago. Well, when it was the Fan Expo was the first one I went to, and that would have been in the exclusively, I think, the South building of the Metrotronic Convention Center, which is right now, if you've gone anytime recently, that is the first building where you do the lineup for the tickets. You get in, and then they have sort of the aisle upon aisle of like models, figures, T-shirts, and usually the actors are there. Along the one from where they let you in, normally it's along the right side wall, opposite the glass. And then you would traverse the north building currently to get to where the comic book artists are, typically speaking.
You talking about Toronto Comic-Con or Fan Expo?
I believe this was Fan Expo like a decade back.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, like a long time ago. Like I remember, I went, and I think tickets for me for the whole weekend, and I crashed at a buddy's place. It was like next to nothing, like, to think about it. And now, I believe last year it was like 80 or $100 for a weekend pass. I mean, I guess I'll go look it up, but something in that area. And so, like, definitely the cost of entry's gone up, obviously. But yeah, I find also what I find interesting, you sort of mentioned, is the money that artists and writers can make from signatures and remarks on comics. Because I certainly remember, and I haven't done this in a while, unless it's something indie and it's, someone where I've picked up their book and I've said, hey, sign it for me. But I remember when I was more so reading DC and Marvel, going up to whomever, and I very quickly developed the idea of just pick three, right? Konrad, pick three comics you want to get signed. So like when Snyder and Capullo came to fan expo for Batman. I think Batman was just or had just ended. I was like, well, okay, the first issue, the last issue that they did, and then my favorite issue in between. That's what I'll have them sign for me. And they charged a certain amount, given the the fame, if you will. But then, like that same show, I went up to, God, I forget who it was, but like someone who worked for Marvel and DC, and I had 2 or 3, and they charged me absolutely nothing. They're like, "Yeah, man, thanks so much for coming out. It's great to meet you. You know, do you have any questions?" Blah blah blah. And then I also ran into I don't think it was that show, but a different show. Francis Manipul, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, who at the time was doing Detective. And like, to me, fabulous artist. I loved his work. His stuff was stunning visually. It looked great. It's extremely fluid motion. His color choices were really cool. I was digging it. And I went up, thanks so much. I love your work. Would you sign this for me? And he's like, yeah, no problem. No one was around, so we shot the shit. He signed it, and then he drew like a quick remark of the Joker on it. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. He's like, yeah, no problem, man. Thanks so much. Great talking with you. And off I went. But like easily, I would have been very happy if he'd be like, hey, I can remark this. It'd be $15 or $20 or whatever. No problem. I think there's a lot of money to be made through that stuff, but I feel like it's happening less. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like signature hunting has gone down, and like the interaction with comic artists at cons, oddly, has slowed down. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just because of what I am paying attention to and why or how I'm paying attention to it. But it's something I feel like I've noticed and sort of touches on that the show's getting away from comics and being more about sort of everything else of nerddom. Really quick, Keith, I wanted to shout out our good friend Paul. Says, good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for doing another Sketchy Goodness show. Paul said that much earlier. I just got a little tied up in what we were saying. So yeah, it's interesting. And when I think about like the economy of being an artist, right, especially someone who's perhaps freelancing, which is fairly common among comic book artists, especially indie people. The idea of like not going to a con, my brain immediately goes, then unless you are extremely eye-catchingly talented, how are people going to see you and find you? Especially nowadays where it's like, if I look up, on Instagram, comic artists, by God, am I going to get flooded with 18 million different people's drawings, which are all going to be some level of good. And it's like, you get lost in the sauce. Whereas if you're at the con to say, hey, I do commissions. If you love my style, I can, whatever it is. Like I know Doug Knight does comic book covers. So, it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like not being able to be there limits you unless you're established. And I think maybe that's where Mr. Mayhew, maybe that's where it's coming from, that establishment. Or like you said, maybe it's just he's done with cons. Because I definitely feel there is something to be gained by being there, networking, but also, just being able to like get seen. It's interesting.
I wonder though. So this is the trust fall part of it. If you were to figure out, like, okay, how can I optimize my time and money to the best of my ability?
Glad you brought this up.
And you go, okay, because in my case, it's like if I were to do a workshop, right? I make a lot more per hour for a workshop, and arguably speaking, because I've created the content from having done many workshops before, I really don't have to put a lot of like it's I'm putting effort into it, yes, but I'm saying I don't have to like prepare a whole new I've already created the pamphlets or the lesson plan. It's already there. It's just maybe tweaked to the specific wherever I'm going, whether it's like a camp or whatever it is. Like I tweak it towards that. So there is a bit of time outside of it, but not as much as let's say it's creating something from scratch, right? So I make for in that situation, I make pretty good money. And then on top of it, if I can sell my books there, right, then all of a sudden I've got, not only am I making a lot an hour just for being there and teaching something, but also
Mhm.
now I'm selling on top of it. I can make a lot of money in a couple of hours doing that. If I were able to do more of those, and there's universities that pay really well, some libraries and schools pay really well,
Sick.
camps, as I mentioned. There's if there's like if it's a nonprofit, they have a certain amount of money towards this kind of thing that they'll pay pretty well. So if you can find those and get them consistently, and then maybe on top of that, you do like teaching online or at a school where that's a consistent job, then I can see the doing as many shows as I do today wouldn't be necessary. And
Yeah.
there's also like the factor of, well, like I can do a single day or even a 2 or 3 day show without really feeling 2 days, 2 day show. I'm usually pretty energetic the next day, or maybe I need a bit of time off
Mhm.
the next day, but then usually I'm pretty good. And then the prep time for that 2 day show isn't like super intense. But anything beyond that, a 3 day show, 4 day show, if it's a show where I'm going somewhere on top of that, like to get there and all that kind of stuff, that's a lot of stress. It's a lot of energy. You're going on a plane. Oftentimes, you're more likely to get concruts, and now all of the
Yeah.
things that happen because of that. You're in pain because you've been standing on your feet for days on end. All of that stuff takes a toll on you when you get to a certain age, and then there's you can't say that the return on it is necessarily always going to be worth it, right? You have to think about those things as you get older, because if all of a
Mhm.
sudden you're out of commission for 2 weeks after because you're sick, and now you're missing all that money because you're usually, you're unless you're even, like if you're a freelancer, you can't be working
Yeah,
as much as
exactly.
you'd like to when you're sick, like that, right? So anyway,
Hmm.
um, so I do see there being an advantage to thinking strategically about, okay, are there ways for me to make more money prior to doing this, or in lieu of doing all those shows, and or is there a way for me to, let's say, do like like a lot of artists will do pre-commissions, and if those
Yeah, I've seen that a
pre-commissions
lot.
that they're doing are they're see here, and this is where the caveat with this stuff, if you're making a lot of money from a pre-commission and you're not putting in so much time and effort into it that it's taking you away from your other work,
Oh, I
that
got you.
maybe,
Yeah.
like it's a bit of a, like I think that you have to be kind of careful, because I know if I do pre-commissions or post-commissions, I put more time into it versus if somebody commissions me at the show and
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, I've got 30 minutes or an hour to get this thing done, and like I as much as I'd love to spend more time on it, this is not a full commission. This is a sketch commission at a show, right? And I mean, arguably speaking, some of those uh, commissions that the high caliber artists do are just like you can make a cover out of it. They're that tight, right?
Yeah.
So like there is that kind of pressure to put that kind of effort into it. But um, yes, so Mike's viewpoint, I can understand if you can figure out what the cost analysis is, where what is it, how much time does it take you to do something, how much value can you get, can you get, um, but I think the other part of it is just, and this is something that I relate to going to like a comedy show or a
Mhm.
movie in a theater. There's an energy you get from a shared experience
Yes.
that you can't it's not the same at home. It's not the same. You don't get that interaction by seeing like somebody online, saying something nice about what you're doing. It's not the same. Using
No.
all of your senses, being in real life, that you can't replace that. There's something about that again, though, some people have social anxieties that prevent them from enjoying
Absolutely.
it. And so I understand that. But I'm saying if you don't, if you can like take that all in, I mean, I pick up by looking at my fellow creators, like what other, guests are doing beside me. Like that just like makes me feel like I get really energized from that. I love like watching them create it. And it, like makes me, oh, look at that technique. I wouldn't have learned that in a million years if I hadn't seen them do it in front of me.
Hmm.
I'm getting it for free, like a tutorial on some of these, like watching some of these amazing creators whose books you've been reading for years, like work, and it's just like that's amazing, right? Like that
Oh
you
yeah.
can't replace that. So again, somebody like Mike Mayhew, I think he's coming from a privileged position, um, and I don't know. I honestly I don't know. I don't know if there's underlying reasons for it.
Oh yeah, and I agree. Like maybe there's something going on there where, like I said, maybe they just straight up don't like cons anymore, but they're just tired of it. Maybe it's social anxiety, maybe it's a health thing, whatever. Um, I also tend to think like because of the business end of it, because of how well established they are, they might not need to. They might literally get more money and peace from being able to sit at home at the drawing board, spend their time drawing a cover that's been commissioned, or making a cover that they know reliably they can sell, as opposed to going to the show. Um, Again, it could be a number of factors, but it's kind of been making me think of something that Chip Zdarsky said, and he mentioned it when I interviewed him a couple years back. But I've seen him mention in articles as well that his intent is he's going to do comics for a little bit. He's going to get the stories out that he wants. If he gets approached by some other companies to write specific characters, he'll say yes or no depending on what he wants to do, and if he has a script ready for it or like an idea for it. Um, and he's like, I'm going to be here. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and then I'm out. He's like, I'm not going to make this my only thing. Um, because he feels in what he was saying is he's seen enough to recognize that he feels as though there's a time limit, if you will, on a comic book creator's career, which I don't necessarily agree with. I want to be clear, but he feels like there's like a strike while the iron's hot, get in, be massively creative, do your thing, and then get out to other things. And
Yeah,
I wonder if that mentality would lend itself well to like comic shows. What I mean by that is if we had less shows, right? So say if there was in Toronto we have March Comic Con, and in August or well late August we have Fan Expo. So say if we went back to those being the only two shows, and they truly did just focus on comic creators again. I wonder if that would cause more people to see more comics, because there would probably be more creators there, because I can't go to the little show in Stony Creek and then the little one in Windsor and then bump over to Barrie the following weekend. It's just here's the two.
yeah,
Um, Again, I don't think that's necessarily a fix. I don't think that's a good idea necessarily, because, like I said, high ticket prices, crowding. There's a hell of a lot of people at Fan Expo, but there's give and take to that too, and it's like a hard sell. But I do think you're correct in like one, like look at it, right? Like look at for you as a creator, especially if you're fairly established, if you're comfortable doing your creation. And if you feel you don't need networking, because from everything I've gleaned over the years, I think that's what it really is for the creators. It's not really about the sales. It's not really about commissions. It's who can you get to know, who can you become friends with. Not that
hmm
that sounds a little snaky, but like it's literally just
no, but that's
get to
what
know
it is.
your yeah,
Yeah,
right. Like you were telling me a story once of two people who met at a con. I think it was you. And they didn't really know each other, but one was a writer, one was an artist. They happened to like each other's work. And then just over the period of the weekend, they were like, hey, we should do a book together. And they kind of came up with the preliminaries. They stayed in touch and they ended up making a book. Um, I think that's beautiful. And half of the reason for a con from the side of a creator. I would love it if more cons just invited creators instead of charging them
Mhm.
for tables. Like, I think it'd be sick if Fan Expo was just like, hey, we have X number of tables. If you want to be in the show, let us know. And then, greedily from the business perspective, maybe look at these people and go, who's the most profitable, we think, who's going to sell the most at the show? And then maybe instead of having you buy a table, they get a small cut plus whatever ticket sales they get.
Right.
Something like, I don't know, maybe tweak the model
Yeah.
for the cons too. Yeah, I feel like I've kind of wandered off into a weird corner of this idea, but I'm very much so, as a fan, I love cons. As a business-minded person, I understand where you might go, that's not worth it, especially with things like con cred, which you've caught before. That's not fun.
No.
For the folks out there, con cred is just like getting sick because there's a bunch of people and they're all being people, and people are kind of gross sometimes. Yeah, but
I do want to go. I do want to go back. But you're actually. See, here's the thing, though. Maybe we do need to revisit the model of the way a show works, right? Because maybe there is a world where it could be more profit friendly for everybody, and make it so that the con is the preeminent place for a creator to not only spread their wings, like to get discovered, to make those connections, to make really good money, like to just meet the fans, like all of those things. Is there a world where you have like a Kickstarter con where everybody who has a Kickstarter happening is the Kickstarter has like a like, hey, we basically, everybody who has got a Kickstarter, so all that money, you have a book printed out and everybody's there just to like look at the book and go, yeah, I want to pre-order it, and then they pay for it, that pre-order there, and whatever it is, like there's some kind of like a a way to do this business model so it kind of shakes up the way things are, because there was a time when like it wasn't the comic book people were there. Yeah, like it was a much more pure thing. And I think that the transaction, like it was a way for some of these creators to, that's their primary source of income, doing these shows, because that's what people were primarily spending their money on. It was either back issues to get to buy and then to get signed, or to get some kind of original art or commission from the creator, and you could sell. You'd have like like a box of your original pages that you'd be selling for like 100 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's been a long time since it was like that, but that was what it was like at one point. And so there could be a way to have like a whatnot type style of like maybe it's a little bit, it comes off as being like very, very superficial and vain, in the sense that like, okay, you've got this big company called whatnot that is auctioning off all the things you're creating, but they're basically paying for you to be there, and you can still sell stuff, and they're like, so they're making good money because you're there, and you're hyping the audience, all the fans up and all that kind of stuff, right? So
yes, and I mean, I think that is what would be. I would love for that to happen. I like the idea that, like, to me, if you're vending at a show, and let me be clear, I've never thrown a con. I'm not the person to talk about how to set one up. I've just gone to a lot of them. But like in my mind, when I think about it, I think that the con, in my mind, should not charge artists for being there. They should make their money. The convention should make their money not purely, but from ticket sales. I think it would make sense to do profit sharing, because I appreciate, like, at the end of the con, like as the business putting the thing on, or if I was to put one on, right, I would want money for the ticket sales to pay for, or say half the money from the ticket sales should pay for the space, and then be profit. But like
Yeah.
at the same time, I think you got to take care of your artists, right? You got to buy tables, rent tables and chairs. Um, you've got to ideally feed these people. Ideally, like,
Yeah.
have water readily available, even if it's something as simple as pizza. Have pizza or something available. But have a way to basically take care of everybody. And then, yeah, maybe like the profit sharing is the way to go. Maybe it's 5%, and then as a business you take on the risk, because that is a part of business, where it's, you know what, as a business, I feel these 10 people are going to be profitable and they'll probably sell some stuff, and we'll take 5 or 10%. Some business professional will probably say it's way too low, but artists got to get paid too. And so by you going out and saying, hey, apply to be in my show, and then also reaching out and say, hey, top-notch artists, whomever, from the local area, we want you to be here, bring your books, bring your stuff to sell. We're going to set you up here, and we want just 5% or 10% of the cut of what you make. And then you do take on, as a business, the risk of, hey, if we're wrong and this person for whatever reason doesn't sell,
Yeah.
welcome to business. That means that person also is not having a great weekend on sales. I would love. Go ahead.
I was just saying there are actually functions like they're like gallery shows, like in the art world, that do that. I've been approached to do that before, but the thing is, they were like, because I'm not their ideal client, to be like, I don't have framed art, so I'd have to spend money to frame my art. That's also, by the way, digital, and then I'm the whole thing is like, I don't pay for, like, I don't think it was. I think you offset the cost of a table or space by getting people to buy tickets. I think that was the thing. Like, you basically, if you can get 100 people to buy tickets, then you don't have to pay for the table. I think that was kind of the trade. I wasn't necessarily crazy about that, but if it was applied to the comic book world, where especially if, yeah, like if there was things where they take care of you, like, okay, it's 100 tickets that you have to sell, but you get a stipend where, like, you get food, you get somebody to drive you there and back, like, maybe I would consider that kind of model. And again, that's kind of what we're talking about. It's like, what can we think outside the box and make this something where, especially if you're, let's say, creating like a specific print or a comic book for the show, and they get a cut of everything, but they're doing all the print and advertising, and you created the art, so maybe you're making like $1 off of every sale, and they sell 1,000 or more, a couple grand or a couple thousand of them, so then you're making back what you would have charged if you were to create the thing, plus whatever it is. Like, yeah, there is that world where some idea like that could potentially work. I would have to, it would be a really hard sell, because you'd have to like figure out how to do that on a small scale, and then be like, okay, we were doing a small one, and everybody made, like, for a single day, everybody made $1,000, right? Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, let's see if we can expand that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's interesting, like, and I think that the issue is, at least the issue I foresee being the but wait thing that any company would say is, the potential for loss. And I think that's where it's like, you know what, artists have been dealing with that for fucking forever. So as a business, so you're gonna eat a loss here and there, but like, if you build a great show and have really cool people show up and be there, you'll be fine. It's one of those things where it's that conflict of like, you have to put art before money, and from a business perspective, I don't think there's a lot of people who want to do that.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's a trust fall type scenario. right?
Yeah, exactly. Although I think the idea of the Kickstarter con is fascinating.
Mhm.
My concern with it is people won't walk away with it. So I feel like it being a con couldn't be a thing, but if it was run out of like gallery spaces, raid studio, if they had like, hey, come and watch live as so and so draws this book that they're making, and you can scan this QR code and pre-order it now, or heck, just donate money, and then we will send it to you because we'll
Yeah.
take your information. You'll have prepaid for it. That would be interesting. I foresee it being a challenge just because people don't have something in their hand. Um, but you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, I mean, hell, people back Kickstarters all the time and don't get something in hand right away. They have to wait months, sometimes a year in advance. Um, Keith, we're almost at the end of our hour here, and I haven't once mentioned what you're drawing. Um, I want to be clear for the folks who've probably been watching this better because you haven't had to look at my ugly mug, but instead you could watch what's on the screen. That did start as nothing. And now you've got someone who kind of, I'm seeing goggles. My brain wants to go to like static, or this is like a future, like a sci-fi thing. Maybe this is like from issue 2 of your book. What up with that, Keith? What are you drawing?
Uh, so initially I was like, okay, maybe this is like a werewolf, like Wolfman type scenario. And then I'm like, well, what if it's like a future Wolfman? Like he's actually, um, in space or something in the future. I don't know. So it's yeah, like that's kind of where I was going with it. I think like where it's the traditional Wolfman, not like some of the more modern takes on it, like something a little bit
Yes.
more, not so much like it's not like long claws or anything. The chest hair kind of coming out of the jacket, and just long arms and stuff like that, but frizzy hair, that kind of thing. So um and the fangs, like that was pretty much my like take on this. And then but it's like in some kind of like future setting of some sort. uh Otherwise I'm not sure.
Love it. You know what? It's awesome. And like what catches me, Keith, on this one specifically is just the background. I love the character you've drawn, the detail in it, the pockets, the wrinkles is always wild. The way people do fabric is fantastic. And I find no two artists do it the same, even though they're all rendering the same thing. But I don't know, something about the fact that you've even like gone in, you've got the background going on. I dig it. This is super sick. Um, our good friend Paul, once again, this has been an amazing episode. Well, thank you, Paul.
Thank you, sir.
And good old Leo, I concur. Thank you,
Hey,
sir.
Dad.
Um,
um yeah, so I think, yeah, that there we were able to mine quite a bit from that one specific, and
Kaboom.
there were other things to talk about that we don't have
Yeah,
time to, like the unionization of Dark Horse.
so cool. Sorry,
You
that was
know,
really loud. I'm really
yeah,
happy about that.
or like people's opinion on watching Spider-Man Noir, or Spider Noir, whatever that is, either in black and white or in color. Which one is the better way to go? Like, there's that whole debate right now going on, and I don't know if I have an answer for that yet, because I've only seen one episode in color, and I'm going to watch the next one, I think, in black and white, to see if it changes like how I feel about the story, which I've enjoyed so far. But yeah, so there was a lot for us that we could have picked from, but I think the conversation we had was quite fruitful.
Oh, I think so. We have a pinch of time left. Did have the creators of Spider-Man Noir, Spider Noir, whatever, state whether or not they intended it to be in color? Because obviously, Spider-Man Noir, the original comic it comes from, is a noir, and if I'm not mistaken, it is mono. I don't know the term for it, but black and white.
Monochromatic,
Yeah,
or black
monochromatic.
and white. Yeah, black and white.
Yeah, black and white. Um, personally, I'd watch it in black and white because it's meant to emulate that time. But I also appreciate, like, you're losing a lot of visual information without the color, so that might work against you, or you might miss something. That's where, like, for me, it would just be, what did the creative team want?
I think it was Nick Cage. Somebody, I can't remember. Somebody said something to me, or if I read it. Nick Cage supposedly he was concerned that younger people wouldn't understand the whole black and white vibe, so they filmed it in color. And then, so here's the thing: I don't know. I know that when you do something, so if I were to turn this into, just really quickly, because I know we're running out of time.
Yeah, go for it.
So if I were to take out any of the color, so I'm desaturating it, right? Some colors, some colors don't behave the way you think they're going to behave. Like a bright yellow may be very, very dark, right? Like this orange, fairly bright orange, you wouldn't necessarily think it was as dark as it was. So take that into consideration. If you have a bunch of color and you desaturate it, some of the vibrancies of things, the brightness of those, all of a sudden that goes away, and now it's just a shade of gray, and it may not. So I don't know if they have. Number one, it may mean that certain, like I said, if it's a bright yellow, like a cab, and then you turn it into a gray tone, that people wouldn't be able to tell it was a cab, first of all, because they wouldn't, unless you see the taxi on it, you wouldn't know. Another aspect is if there's another value that's similar to that value, but one's the actual color itself, the hue is red, and then the other one's blue. But then when you make desaturate, they look the same. So you may actually have to go into post-production and change all of those things. Like, I don't know if they actually had, because it doesn't translate purely from color to desaturation. That doesn't, you have to make sure that especially from scene, from frame to frame, that whatever the thing you're looking at doesn't all of a sudden blend into the background, right? Because it's the same value as the thing in the foreground. But before, there was a different color, and so the brain is able to separate them. But when you turn them into a gray, you can't. So you have to then go and actually make something lighter or darker in gray to make them visually separate, so that the audience isn't going, what am I looking at here? This is hard for me to understand. So I don't know. I'm curious to know how much extra work it goes into doing that. That's something we can talk about another time once I've seen both the black and white version and the color version, whether or not it actually does change something quite a bit, right? So those are
really quick. Just to add on to that too, if what you said earlier is correct, and it was the case that Nicolas Cage himself was like, hey, if we do this black and white, I don't know if the kids are going to get it, because like that character, right? Let's be honest. Right now, popularity wise, people who watch this, especially kids who watch this, are going to come to it from the perspective of having watched the Miles Morales Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse films. So you're likely to have a lot of kids watching this. And if it's the case that he said, hey, don't do it, don't film it black and white, film it color and turn it. My question becomes, if they had planned everything in black and white, and then they had said, you know what, Nick, you're right, we're going to film it in color, what changes happened to the filmography, the shots, the style, when they went, screw it, we're going to have color, we can now do this, and then had to strip it out later?
I don't think they filmed it twice. I just think they would use. I think it's in post. So either I would assume that they started with color first and then desaturated it. To your point, they could have started as desaturated, and then, because here's the thing, I work desaturated first as well. If you I work in value. You've seen me. I work in value.
Yeah, all the grayscale first. Yeah,
I do that, and then I lay the color in, because doing it first and Grachow and value, you can see what's popping and what isn't. And then once you actually add color to it, you can, at that point, you're making decisions based off of how things are separate already, versus the reverse of it. You're not going to know what the color is doing necessarily until you desaturate it. And then you're going to notice, ooh, that red and yellow that was very separated now look like one value, right?
Mhm.
So, but I don't know what kind of process they use to do that. That would be the question I would have, how they went about, whether they did it in color first or did it in desaturated value and then added color after, which I think probably would have worked. It probably works better, but I don't know if it's possible to do that. I don't know, or if it is it time prohibitive, right?
Oh, I imagine so. But yeah, it would be fascinating to know. Like there's so many things where it's like, in my mind, I wonder about the specific shots that they have, if they planned it to be desaturated first and then gone, you know what, when we film this, let's film it in color and then we'll desaturate later, if that changed anything. All very interesting stuff to sort of wrap around. And perhaps we'll talk about it again on a future episode. But that being said, we are past 8 o'clock. Keith, thank you so much once again for taking the time to do my sketchy goodness with me, man.
Yeah, and just for everybody that I will be doing a TCAF in June 6th and 7th. So for everybody who is around in Toronto, it's at the old Maple Leaf Gardens. It's now the TMU's, is it not the Bellamy Athletic, but like something similar to that. I can't remember the exact name. It's essentially their training facility. I think it's either the
Mattamy Athletic Center.
Mattamy. I knew it was in Bellamy. Mattamy Athletic Center. That's what it is. So I just found out I'm on the second floor, which is their varsity basketball, like where they play basketball and stuff.
Oh, cool.
I'm on the second floor. I'm table 10B or something like that. So you can look for me there. It's free to get in. If you're looking for an event in Toronto for the whole family, it's family friendly. Lots of panels, workshops, things for kids, as well as lots of true, like the indie creators who are selling their books.
Mm-hmm. Love it. And folks, do go follow Keith online. You've got a wicked graphic out showing you exactly where it is. I think it's just the map, but you've drawn in some stuff. It's nice. Absolutely, Keith, thank you. And for the folks out there in YouTube land, thank you for commenting today, both Paul and Leo. Comment for any questions you'd like to ask for further episodes. And of course, subscribe